Okay. Hello, everyone. Good morning from a very cold and rainy Austin, Texas. Thank you all for joining us today and welcome to today's webinar. This is the final webinar in our Research Integrity series. And my name is Leah DeForest. I'm the Communications Manager with Texas Digital Library. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Sorry, I was so caught up in our discussion about farming and sheep and all those good things. So 1 second, thanks. Okay, so again, I'm Leah with Texas Digital Library, and I'm so excited. I'm joined today by Alex Suarez, our conference planner, and also our director, Christy Park.
Hi, everybody.
So,
welcome.
TDL is really grateful to our members, who you'll see a few on the screen, and a few of you are here today. We're really glad you are here. We want to thank you for for letting TDL provide essential infrastructure and services like digital preservation, digital repository hosting, and tools for managing research data and ETDs. And we invite any institution interested in becoming part of our consortium to reach out to us, because we need you, we need your energy and your expertise to continue growing the digital library community in this region and beyond. I invite you to join TDL and connect with our amazing, fun, brilliant community of librarians and archivists. So after the last webinar last week, I realized some people hadn't heard of Bill and Ted or hadn't seen the film. So we do have our homework cut out for us here, but we at TDL are very big fans of Bill and Ted because they are most triumphant, and especially because they believe in being excellent to each other. So we at TDL ask that everyone here also be excellent to each other. We're dedicated to providing an experience for everyone that is free from all forms of harassment and inclusive of all people. And if you haven't had a chance to watch Bill and Ted's, I highly recommend, and start with the original, please. And so finally, a little bit of housekeeping. We do ask that you keep your microphones and videos muted until the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. And our presenters will also keep their mics and videos muted until it's their turn to present. In the meantime, be sure to use the chat box. Say hello, respond to our polls, let others know you're here, make comments, and type in your questions. Excuse me. Cold, rainy, yet still somehow allergies in Austin. I don't know how that's possible. Finally, this webinar is being recorded. We will publish our slides and recordings and share them with all of you in attendance today. We'll also publish the links on our website so you can access them at any time. So now on with the show. And I do want to thank again today's presenters for allowing us to learn from your experience. We have with us today Dr. Bruce Herbert. He's the director of the Office of Scholarly Communication at Texas A&M University. We also have Melody Hare, PhD. She is head of the Office of Scholarly Communications at the University of Arkansas. And Melody, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand things over to you.
Okay, what did I just do? Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and let you all look at my slides. Okay, then this is us. Let's start with a quick refresher on research integrity from last week. You will remember that we learned the core values of research: honesty, fairness, openness, accountability, objectivity, and stewardship. These values are the foundation stones for integrity, and researchers in every discipline, the sciences, the social sciences, and the humanities, all share these same values. The National Academies gives us this definition of integrity. It means basically applying these values that we saw in the last slide throughout the entire research process, from planning through publication, from reviewing grant proposals and manuscripts, mentoring and training students, and taking care of the scholarly record, that is research results, publications, and data. Today, we're going to discuss strategies for providing research integrity training on your own campus and give you a chance to practice designing an instructional module. Periodically, we will post the link to the template that we're going to be using today, so keep an eye on the chat box. Since I'm on the tenure track, I'm always looking for ways to get credit for the things that I do. And so Bruce and I decided for this workshop, we want to give you the opportunity to earn a letter of recognition. It's very easy to do that. All you need to do is design your own instructional module. You'll find the template that we provided. We provided also a list of research integrity topics. You simply choose the topic you want to use as the basis for your module, fill in the template, and then email it to me. My email address is visible on the web page and on the template itself. We want to create a collection in TDL for this workshop. It will contain Bruce's slides, my slides, the conversations, etc. But we also want to include the instructional modules that you are producing. So when you email your module to me, please indicate whether or not we can include it in the collection. Bruce and I will look over the modules and then send you a letter on letterhead saying that you have completed the workshop. That's all I have, so I'll hand it over to Bruce. Bruce, you're muted.
There you go. Thanks. All right, thanks everybody. As Melanie just explored, what we're going to do today is focus on learning from each other on ways that some kind of library program on research integrity could be offered at your institution or organization. So we have a short section where we'll talk about the big issues and big factors to think about. And these are all kind of discussion points. So be ready to jump on in and say something, please. Share your perspective. Remember, all our organizations are different, and we ourselves are all different. We come from different backgrounds and perspectives. So the programs we offer don't have to look the same, right? You're serving the needs of your own community. But certainly if we join together, we can learn from each other. Something that I've always thought is the very strength of the Texas Digital Library. So I'm gonna share my screen and start showing slides, and the host has to enable screen sharing when they're ready.
Bruce, I think that you can do it yourself. We were made co-hosts.
Yep, let's see if I can do that myself. Nope, I can't do that myself. Leah, can you make me a host? Okay, I can do it now. Thank you. You guys might hear the dogs in the background. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're in the part 2, and now we're gonna start taking some of these ideas around research integrity and thinking about what kind of programs we could offer that best serve our campus community. The first question that I often work on here at Texas A&M is essentially, are librarians the right people for the job? And I'd be interested in what the group thinks. Why would librarians weigh into research integrity questions and issues on campus? Feel free to just say something or jump in, open, and I think that we can do that. Yeah. Carolyn, you always have opinions. Come on, help me out here.
Let's see.
Why librarians?
Well, let's see. We're involved in all phases of the research cycle, right? So we get the whole publication, the accountability, the item of record, the who wrote it, everything behind it, from data to, we can organize it all and make it findable. And part of that is accountability, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. Certainly there are topics that we're already offering. I know Carolyn does a great job with the team out at the Medical Sciences Library to often support her communities on information searching, literature reviews. And there are all kinds of ethical issues in how those literature reviews are conducted and what literature gets cited and what literature does not. And so there's a perfect example. The Rebel, I'd be interested in what you think, because Rebel has a really interesting job at a statewide library that serves the organizations in the state of Florida. I don't know if you want to weigh in on how it might pertain to your job.
So I guess I was thinking more from the institution level for here,
Yeah,
but
sure.
I think the same kind of things, copyright, and author rights and the hosting of those research outputs, I think is a big thing. So we make visible and discoverable the content that they put out. And if there's not integrity behind that content, that can also play against the face of the institution. So I think in some way that's one of our biggest roles.
Absolutely. One of the things that I've always observed here at Texas A&M is that librarians have a real, they have a reputation on campus for being agnostic, just helpful, service-minded. When a research integrity program is offered by the vice president of research or a dean's office or something like that, it can often be perceived by the campus community as a compliance issue. Do this or you're in trouble. Ethical issues, of course, are not always so gray, black and white. They're often these gray areas. And because of our trusted status on campus, because we're not involved in the role of evaluation or compliance, you might have a lot more acceptance for offering these kinds of programs than maybe a vice president, an administrator, because of that. So it's another reason why I think a library could be a really good place to embed these programs. Okay, let's go to the next one. Great. Okay, this is really important. And I just saw a keynote talk in another conference where Rebecca Bryant of OCLC made a big deal about the social aspects of the programs and tools that we have on campus. And as part of that, understanding our social imprint on campus, we have to understand the stakeholders on campus that are going to care about research integrity. So I'd be interested in if anybody would like to talk just 2 seconds about what their college or university is like, and who are some of the more important stakeholders who you might serve. And because TDL is made up of such a diverse set of colleges and universities, and it will be different on different campuses. Anybody brave? I can always pick on people. Go ahead.
Bruce, this is Christy. I'll just mention there are a couple of, or there's one comment in, a couple comments in chat. We've got Provost.
There you go. That helps a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
General Counsel, Rebel mentioned both of those. Necia mentions the colleges themselves, but also the Extension Service. Hannah says VP for Research. Ooh. And Melody mentions the Honors College as well.
Sure. The when I was a geology professor, I used to teach a course once a year, a seminar course for grad students. And the seminar course kind of explored issues around professional practice. And we did that because grad students are being enculturated into a community of experts that have their own norms and values and practices. And so it was important to get them started on the right foot. And in large part, we talked a lot about publishing. We talked a lot about how to work with a research team and collaborations. Once in a while, we talked about how grad students need to manage their advisors. Those are always pretty funny conversations. But we often talked about ethical issues like authorship, ethical issues around collaboration, data ownership always came up, and things like that. So one of the best stakeholders on campus that many of you will be able to serve will be students themselves, because graduate programs in particular, undergraduate programs too, are enculturating those students into disciplinary communities. And so the ability to understand the ethics of belonging, of good practice, of good ethical practice, is almost always incorporated in those programs. And so it's really, so students are a really big thing. You may not, you can imagine teaching all the way, but certainly for my graduate seminar, I would have loved to have a librarian show up and cover different topics during one of the sessions, the weekly sessions. It would have been awesome. So students and faculty, really good thing. Faculty themselves are important stakeholders. The #1 source of conflict on the A&M campus is between faculty and on questions of authorship. And so it's a real big problem. Yes, and Rebel's absolutely right. With that pressure to publish before graduation, you'll often see that novices in a discipline, like graduate students or undergraduates, will cut corners to get ahead, and it's really, really common. I actually had to throw out a student out of my research group one time for being unethical, and I often talk to my students about these issues, so you could help in those kinds of things. Yeah, yes. Hannah, would you like to talk a little bit more about that? That's really, really important right there. You made a really good statement. Hannah is in the chat. She goes, I love it when faculty learn about initiatives from their grad students so they may be more plugged into the learning resources on campus. Yeah, absolutely. A faculty member is, I used to be so busy on trying to find money that I rarely knew what was going on anywhere. And so if my grad students didn't tell me about it, it was hopeless. Okay, that's really good. And Rebel, that'll be interesting to hear more about. Okay, common learning goals for responsible conduct of research training programs or workshops, or whatever, however you might want to implement these things. These come from the National Academy of Sciences, and they often recognizing defining ethical issues, identifying relevant stakeholders and the socio-technical systems they work in, identifying when values are conflicted, when there are different values at play, constructing viable alternative courses of actions or solutions, identifying constraints, and then remember, again, a lot of these issues are not always black and white. It is not the difference between ethical practice and misconduct. The most common issues are between ethical practice and people trying to cut corners to do the easy thing. So in large case, they may try to defend their actions. And so the ability to engage in dialogue or negotiate relationships and collaborations is a really, really important skill for all of us. And so these are really common goals for RCR training. I'm looking at them and I'm just going, yeah, that's exactly what I would want to talk about in my own graduate program. So we used to talk about those very things. And if you can appreciate this, oh, right, I'm sorry. So if you look at the practices, the topics, I went through last night, I probably went through about 50 different syllabi for RCR programs around the country. And these were a lot of the topics that people listed. So responsible practices in literature reviews, data management, analysis, and sharing. There's always issues around authorship, publication practices, and I saw before people listed in the chat, they talked about plagiarism, issues like that. Peer review too, as people, especially for PhD students and postdocs, as they might be asked to engage in peer review for the first time. There are really important things to learn about the ethical practices. There is always conversations on campus on the relationship between students and faculty, or the relationship between researchers in research collaborations. And you always find research collaborations that fall apart, and the people never talk to each other again. I myself have people that I thought were my friends, and I don't even know where they are in the world anymore. And so that's a really good topic. When we're going towards compliance, remember it was the conflicts of interest, commitment, and overlap that were the issues that NIH and NSF were focused on. Faculty in particular getting research grants need to disclose. This is something I'm not actually sure if there's a strong library role, and this I might ask Carolyn to help us with a little bit. But many RCR programs also discuss human research subjects or the use of animals in research and those ethical issues. Certainly those of you that have gone through training so that you can get through an institutional review board for your own research that might involve human research subjects know that you have to discuss that. In many cases, many librarians don't have the expertise, I think, and experience in doing that kind of work. But maybe Carolyn can help me out here. At MSL, you do engage in some kind of lit review to help proposal preparation around animal use in research.
Yeah, we do searches for animal use protocols.
Yeah, there you
the
go.
IACUC.
I didn't know what the name of it was. Yeah.
Yeah, AUP searches is what they're called, and I imagine anyone who yeah, and really what they're doing is looking to see, are there any alternatives? Are there ways to reduce, reuse, or eliminate the use of animals, or take it down to a different level, use fewer of them, whatever. And so we have to look, search the literature to find, for them to understand, here are alternatives. Can you do a liver on a chip? Or can you, is somebody else doing this research and maybe you could use their data or whatever. It's a really extensive process if done correctly, which it almost never is.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a little bit outside my experience because nobody cares what you do to rocks. And then sometimes I got into actually using bacteria in my experiments. Oh, cyanobacteria, those were really fun. But again, I didn't have to do an IRB for that. One of the other topics that often came up on these syllabi, yes, I should start on earning the rocks. They just didn't seem to care very much. Is how researchers interact with society. These might be doing interviews on your local TV station, guiding the public on around some controversial issue. It's hard to do, and there might be some specific interests among the TDL community that has some expertise in that topic. That would be pretty interesting. I'd be interested to see what people come up. Okay.
Bruce,
yes.
we need to move into the breakouts.
Yep, I'm almost, so
Great.
just want to remind, case studies are really important. Blah, 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 don't care. These are really nice. We don't care about that. We'll talk about it. Okay, so we're going to a breakout now. Thanks, Melody. And this is where discussion about crafting some kind of instruction module workshop on your own campus. So I'm gonna stop sharing and let you guys move everybody in.
We can record breakouts, but we end up having a bunch of separate recordings. So we have to kind of sort through all that on our end at the end. And
okay, that's fine. I was just concerned, like the conversation that you and I are having right now is being recorded, and that's not.
Yeah, that's true. It probably
let's
is.
not do that.
I think we should be able to edit that out.
Okay.
I can pause it as well if we need to.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Let me pause.
We may have lost a few people, but it looks like most everyone is back. So before we transition to the final leg of the webinar today, Melanie had a really great thought to share. So Melody, I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Yes, so obviously the Office of Research is someone, you know, another group that the library can partner with, but there's also the Office of Research Integrity. Whether or not your campus has an official office with multiple staff, I'm sure that you have at least one academic integrity officer. And so research integrity is related to academic integrity, and very specifically, they overlap with plagiarism and citations. And those are things that librarians are supposed to be experts on anyway. So that may be a foot in the door. So,
yeah.
So Bruce, do you want to take over the conversation?
Absolutely,
here?
yes. So in the 3 groups that I visited, there were questions. People wanted to know if they were supposed to be filling out their Word document now. And so don't say the answer, Melody, because I told them they didn't have to because nobody had time to do that. But remember, all we're trying to do today is to share ideas and any, you know, experiences, best practices, anything that we can, and maybe possibly doing a little self-organization around shared interests. Because of course, developing a new workshop or a course, you know, something, any kind of program takes time. And if you can get 3 or 4 people all contributing together, it makes the workload lighter. And so once we're done with this, we hope some of you are willing to go in and put your ideas to paper and then share them back with, and who do they send they send it to Melody. And then because then we can create a library of these ideas, and they also represent contact points, right? So that if other librarians or people get interested in a topic, then they know who to contact, and they can draw from your own expertise. And that's the very strength of the Texas Digital Library. Lots of people think it's the technology. It's not, it's the people. Okay, so sounds good. So would any of the breakout rooms like to talk a little bit about some of the ideas they talked about? Maybe the topic that they found interesting? Alexa looked like she was about to take a breath there. Oh God, no, don't make me talk. John, how about John? John, can you talk?
Sorry.
Not a problem, I don't care.
I'm multitasking. I'm taking off for the weekend at noon, so I'm trying to like
very nice.
Paying attention and answer
worry.
emails and messages at the last minute. Sorry, but John, yes, please speak for us.
Yes, John and Alexa were in group number 1, and they were talking about data management. And
we just really like the idea of kind of trying to find something that we could insert into an existing workshop that we have that's sort of a nice cognitive break from content and just more of a discussion about these topics. And so we looked at data management and data fabrication or data omission, and potentially putting together a case study for that, and inserting that into our sort of general research data management guide to good practice workshop. So
awesome.
Those were
And if any of our participants are interested in doing data management programs, would you be willing to talk to them?
Of course. Yeah.
There you go. I knew the answer, but I just wanted to hear it. I bet, has anybody actually run courses or programs using case studies that are around ethical issues? I've only done it a few times. Why don't you talk about what how you did it? What's maybe some things that worked for you, John?
Yeah, I've introduced these sort of ethical dilemmas with data in a number of workshops. What I found to be, I love the case studies the one we discussed last week, and that I can't remember where that came from, but that resource has really great ideas for case studies, and you can find them anywhere online. But what I found I have 50 minutes and I have a lot of content. So I have to kind of take that longer case study that's a little complex with some, a number of questions that they have. And I sort of slash and burn a little bit to simplify it, just so that I can make it fit within the context of that workshop. And there's a fine line of making it too simple so that it's really boring and dumb and everybody hates it, or overcomplicating it and spending 15 minutes on it. So you have to there's a give and take, and it's a lot of just trial and error. That's been my experience.
Did your participants find them interesting though?
Yeah, I always, hold my breath when I say unmute or, put your answers in the chat, and it's like a flood, and everybody has different perspectives. It's like people are interrupting each other, they're arguing. It's great. I always think it's not going to happen, and it always does.
Outstanding.
Okay, awesome. But I have a question there about using hypothetical cases versus using real cases, because right now I'm building a module, and I'm working with some of the co-directors from the Office of Undergraduate Research. And someone suggested, well, why don't we use the falsification of information about the ways in which vaccines are harmful, right? Okay, and so the group decided to stay away from anything like that because the students actually have too much invested. So talking about hypothetical cases might be safer than talking about real. So what does the group think about that? Exactly. So what does the group think about that?
I like to dive into religion all the time, but yeah, go ahead, Carolyn.
Yeah, we talked about what a minefield it is in the classroom right now. That you can't talk about anything, whether it's science, facts, anything, without it being a political minefield. And yeah.
Yeah, it is the nature of the beast. Well, in that case,
try and avoid it.
Yeah. Does anybody else have experiences talking with case studies in any kind of maybe outside of this topic, research integrity? All right. But let's go to some of the other groups. What were some of the other topics? I did have a really good conversation with Hannah's and Kelly's group. Hannah, would you like to talk a little bit about what you guys talked about?
Sure. We had talked about maybe implementing an authorship workshop. This is something that I've been kind of thinking about for a while. And Bruce then came into the section and, shared with us that his example of actually getting credit implemented, the credit taxonomy implemented for promotion and review, that each person who's up for promotion and review would go through their CV and indicate what their contribution was to these certain citations that are in there, which I think that kind of adds value to it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I thought the credit taxonomy kind of is the solution. One way you could really delineate contribution and make it visible.
Yeah, but we as a group are actually interested in kind of developing something, and I would be happy to be a contact point for others who are interested in touching base about that, and maybe sharing some slides, co-creating some slides.
Awesome. Hannah, maybe you could put your email in the chat or something for folks.
Yes, will do.
Yes, absolutely. And great. Melody, do we need to break off now because people are starting to peel away for their 12 o'clock meetings, which I hopefully
Yes, I
include.
think Leah wants to say
Yep.
goodbye. I'm putting
Yeah.
in the chat the credit taxonomy that Bruce just
Perfect.
mentioned. It is really helpful.
Yeah.
So you want to sign us off, Leah?
I hate saying goodbye, but yes, I understand that we do have to end. All the good things come to an end. And thank you all so much for coming back for round 2 of our research integrity workshops. We'll follow up with slides, recording, etc. And really hope that all y'all will consider applying for that certification from Bruce and Melody. So keep an eye out for that email, and we'll see you again really soon, I hope.
Yeah, sure. And feel free to reach out to Melody or I if there's any way we could help you at all. And I don't mind just meeting on Zoom, just talking about your individual project or ideas. It'd be fun. I can at least tell you what a faculty member would think about it. So,
Thanks, Bruce.
Even if I don't have
You're always so generous with your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I do seem to live on Zoom. But great, outstanding. Well, everybody have a safe day. Be careful of the weather here in Texas. Big pile up in Dallas, I saw, and stuff like that. And if anybody wants raw wool that's naturally black, we're going to be shearing in about 3 weeks, and I can ship you 100, 150 pounds of it. Manure,
Great.
embedded manure attached to. So it's, good for the garden, good for you. Okay.
I was laughing at that. I could just imagine my husband's expression.
I can send you 50 pounds. It's not a problem.
We can talk,
Okay.
Nisha.
We'll talk. We'll talk. Thank you.
How many
We'll
professional
schedule a wall
meetings
webinar.
end with manure in the
You got to give those sheep a bath. Come on.
You gotta meet more with Bruce.
Yeah,
Alexa, 'cause you might be
75% of
surprised.
Bruce's webinars.
It's true.
Yeah, yeah. And they kind of have bullshit in the middle, but it's like.
See, we did need a bleeper.
Yes.
We did
Oh,
need a
yeah.
bleeper.
Oh, that
Did we
was
stop
recorded.
recording?
Stop
Nope,
recording.
that's